Yay! Welcome to Body Story with Coach Coco, Katie. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm good. I'm very good. Excited
Lovely.
to talk to you today. A little nervous, but excited.
Oh, it's so funny. Most of the women say that. They're like, I'm nervous. And you know what? That's a good thing. That means you're ready to be vulnerable. That's how I hear that.
Oh, good.
I
I'm
already
glad
told
you
you,
hear
girl,
it like that.
I'm out here in Gordonsville, Virginia, at my little cottage. So I got a different background today, which is cool, but it's quiet and quaint. And I am in the total mood to talk about your
Yay.
body story. So introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you live, what you do, and why you said yes to this
Okay.
interview.
So my name is Katie Johnson, and currently I am a project manager for a small consulting company with the federal government. I also have a part-time job as a group exercise instructor, and I have done that at least in a part-time capacity for the last probably 23 years. It's been quite a long time.
Babies and all. Pushed all three of them babies out
Yes.
on that bike.
Yes, almost. My last one was a little different because of COVID, but that's okay. So I live in Arlington, Virginia, and I said yes because I would never want to say no to you, Coco. It is, I've been following you kind of expand your community on Instagram, and I share you with everybody I know. And in my
Wow.
classes, if people ask if you're coming back, I say, I'm not sure, but she runs boot camps and she runs this and she runs that, and check out her Instagram page so you can go and visit her at one of her boot camps. So you're
Thank you,
just,
Katie.
everything you do is, I didn't know you before you were an instructor, and I hope this doesn't sound condescending, but I'm just so proud of what you've done with this kind of second, it's like I don't know, I feel like it's your true passion that has kind of become your second chance at a career that you love.
So
So
I like that you see
I
that.
couldn't say no.
That's wonderful, Katie. Thank you, hon. Because the first time you and I met in person, I think wasn't it at a Washington Sports Club like spin fitness instructor meeting, and I was like,
Instructor,
"Ooh, I like
yes.
her sash. She is a passionate instructor." Because I gravitate towards passionate fitness instructor. You know you can tell who's there for them, really for themselves, their health, but really for their people and the people that ride with them. And I got that vibe from you instantly. So it made sense to talk to you about your body story. And you're a mama of
Thank
3
you.
girls. So
I am. Yes, I am. I think that's another reason I said yes, is when you and I were talking about this, I was having kind of a kind of defining, I feel like self-defining moment of where I'm going next. And I was telling you, like, I don't know if this is the right time. I'm feeling really emotional. I'm feeling really hormonal. I don't know if I should be doing this at all. And you said, please do, because I think that other people need to hear that this can happen, and that our hormones and things that we can't control definitely control a lot of our body. And we're not always prepared for that.
Ooh, well, wherever you want to start with me, because you just took us right there. Where do you want to start with your body story? This can go however you want it to go.
So I think to begin, I think it's important to, so I've taught for 1,000 years, right? Like I'm almost 39 years old. I started when I was 15. And the reason I started is my sister and I got in trouble one day, and my mom said, you have to be separated. One of you can stay here, but one of you has to come with me so that you're away from each other. I think it was in 6th grade.
Okay.
And I had to go with her because my sister was older. So she like got to stay at home. And I went to a step class with my mom.
Okay.
And I was expecting to hate it, right?
Okay.
I was like, oh my God, she drugged me here. I don't know how old was I, 12 or 13 or something. And I hated it. I thought I was going to hate it, and I loved it. And the instructor was absolutely amazing. It was like dancing on a box.
Oh,
you know,
so
you
fun.
go up and down, and she called it dancing. So I went to the next one and the next one. And then I was like a fangirl of this instructor. So I think that most people, and I could be wrong, but I feel like most people didn't grow up how I did. And my mom, her weight fluctuated a lot throughout her life. But I remember going to the back of group exercise studios when we were really little. And we would get like an Orangina and chips and sit in the back and watch her step class with all of her friends. And then, as a punishment, I had to go to the gym one day. I think for a gift, I think it was Christmas or Easter or something, my mom got us personal training sessions with her personal trainer because she
Okay.
thought that that was something we would like. So I think it's probably abnormal maybe that, but my mom's not like she's not like Miss Fitness USA or anything like that. She does a lot of work to
Okay.
stay fit.
Yeah.
But I think that it kind of indoctrinated us to be a little bit more fitnessy as we grew up. So
Can we unpack that
yeah,
a little bit more? Because I love hearing women's stories when it started with the physical activity, that kind of that connectivity to their body. And for you, it sounds like you got exposed quite young. How do
yes,
you, how do you see that now?
that's interesting because it's a should. I know that I should be exercising. I know that I should move my body every day. So when I don't, sometimes I feel really lazy. And
Mm,
sometimes I feel like I kind of deserve what I'm looking at in the mirror these days because I haven't done the work. And I was always super strong and I've run 2 marathons. I've taught cycling for probably 10 or 11 years. I taught step aerobics for probably another 10 years before I started spinning. So I've always been doing something. And this is the first job I've had. I just changed to this job in April. This is the
mhm.
first job I've had that did not have something to do with fitness.
How did that make
So,
you? Can I ask? Were there any thoughts that crossed your mind when you took on a job that didn't directly involve movement, since it's been such a big part of your life?
so the hard shift I took to get out of kind of like everyday physical activity, like that it wasn't a part of my everyday. When I graduated from college, like part of my contract when I started, I was a wellness coordinator, was to teach 5 classes a week.
Mm,
So I taught 5. So that's one a day, right? And then to
yeah.
make extra money, I could teach additional. So there were weeks I was teaching 11 classes, 12 classes a week, hopping from, location to location. And I loved it, but also it's kind of hard when it's like forced on you that you have
Yeah,
to.
yeah. It takes still
Um,
some of the joy, especially as a coach, takes some of the joy out of it.
exactly. It's more of a,
Yes.
and you'd kind of get there and be like, oh, hopefully, and there might be 3 people in class at,
Yeah.
the Department of Justice. And you're like, 3 people, can I
Because you
really
need
do
that
all of
energy. Yes, yes.
And then I worked in, so I went from like government fitness, corporate fitness to commercial fitness, which was the
Okay.
TSI side, the Washington sports clubs, Philadelphia sports clubs. I moved into a regional manager role and then a regional director role for group exercise, small group training, and sports clubs for kids. So I was still in the clubs every day. I traveled all over. I had to hire a personal trainer in a different city so that I would be sure to get my workouts in.
So, Katie,
Um,
that's the reoccurring that I'm hearing from when we started talking, is this constant activity.
yes,
What
yes.
crosses your mind at the thought of not being that active? What does that do for you, the thought of that?
So I think what's kind of been helpful is that, in today, like right now, in this day and age that we're living in the last 18 months, everything has slowed down. So
Yeah.
I think that with one of the blessings from COVID has definitely been to kind of just stop moving and just be and stay in your house with your crazy kids and your husband and just stay here. Um, but at first it was pretty difficult. It was a little bit hard to say like, okay, well, because I have an office job now, does that mean that I'm just going to gain a bunch of weight? Or does that mean that I'm going to have to find time to work out before or after? Or it was always, where can I fit it in? So
How does that, like the thought of gaining weight, not being active and gaining weight, what does that do for you as a woman?
I think it scares me, definitely. I I have a hard time reconciling the wanting to be a certain size with wanting to live my life.
Ooh, tell me
Those two things.
more. Tell me
So, like,
more.
I love wine and cheese. I love going out to a good dinner. My husband and I love to try different breweries, like all of those types of things.
Yep.
We all know that alcohol in moderation or not at all is the best way to, cut calories and make sure that you can lose weight, or 80, what did they say? 85% of your abs are made in the
Mm-hmm.
kitchen, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I constantly kind of go back and forth, and I tell myself like, well, I'm not losing weight because I'm living my life, and that's okay for now,
Okay.
and I think that that's all fine and good until you look in the mirror after a shower and you're like, how did I get here?
So let me ask Katie, talk me through the thought process, because this has come up in previous interviews. What does that balance look like? Both the where you're having the bread, cheese, and wine with your husband, and then later on that evening still appreciating what you are seeing in the mirror. What does that work to get to that sweet spot look like for you? How is this? What are you doing? Even the
I
littlest
don't
things that's helping.
know
Okay.
that have it totally figured out either. I think that I go back and forth. I think that I allow myself some freedom and some forgiveness. And then I think there are some times when I feel guilty. And I've, you read all of the things that say like, celebrate all the things your body can do. And kind of, you know, I mean, my body has grown and fed 3 kids for the last 6
Yes.
years.
Yes,
So
indeed.
part of this is like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna not look like I did before I had kids, right?
Yeah.
That's how, but I'm also not doing the work to get back to where I was before I had kids. Like, I don't lift weights as often. I teach cycling 2 times a week, and sometimes that's the only workouts I get in. So I just kind of have to tell myself, if I'm gonna do it for me, like, I need to put my foot down, put a schedule together and do it. And I have a personal training certification. I have a body pump certificate. Like, I have all these things. I should know what to do.
And there's
Oh,
that word. There's that word should, Katie. And
yeah,
this is what I'm so
so
curious about.
true.
All the things that we hear and read, especially when we're in the wellness world. But I'm always curious, how are we actually listening to what our body is really telling us or that it needs? And being compassionate with the evolution. I used to go hard
That's a good
lifting.
point.
It was just consistent, 4 times a week minimum. And trying to come to peace with my body has changed. It's not
Hmm.
even craving that level of activity anymore. So where do I find this sweet spot? Is it more yoga? Is it more Pilates? Is it increasing stretching? Where to channel that energy since I don't have it at the same level as I once did? How do you process that for you, Katie? How's that a
I
part of your
think
body
that's
story?
such a good point, is that we constantly compare to what we could do or what we used to do, right?
Yes.
And I had a very good run last year. And I say run because I got sick and it came to an end. And then it's been very hard to kind of like
Mm.
restart this.
Yep.
But when I was done, I've always made sure to take my full maternity leave with each of my kids.
Mm.
And that is from work.
Why was that
And
important for you?
because I knew that this could be the only time you get.
Mm.
Like, I needed to be gentle with my body. I needed to be careful. I mean, after you have a baby, you don't feel like doing anything right away, right? So, and then they say, at your 6-week appointment, your doctor clears you for physical activity, but I just carried a giant child for, 9 months
Yes,
or 40
Katie.
weeks or something. So I know better than that. I know better
Mm.
than to start activity at 6 weeks. And that's
Mm.
probably 6 weeks postpartum. And that's
Yep.
probably just because I know a lot of postpartum personal trainers and physical therapists, and
Yes.
your body's just not ready. Especially, it literally drives me absolutely insane. The doctor's like, go ahead, go back.
Why do
I'm
you
like,
think that
right.
is? Why do you think that's encouraged, Katie, for women to?
I think they don't know. I think physicians don't know enough, and or they don't have enough time to explain to you what it's going to take to get back. I had to fight my doctor for a referral to a physical therapist for
Mm.
pelvic floor therapy.
Oh, did you go to therapy for pelvic
I did.
floor?
I did.
Can we talk?
Yeah.
That is a game changer, Katie. I mean, I'm imagining a woman after giving birth to relearn that pelvic floor control. And the
It
fact
is
that you
still
had
a
to
challenge.
negotiate with the doctor to get
Well,
them to.
because she
That's
told
incredible.
me that I was still nursing, so I should just still expect leakage, and I should still expect like some discomfort if I'm running or doing jumping jacks. I'm like, but let's be clear, I'm not doing any of those things. I know
Yeah.
my limits, and that sounds like a hot mess if I decided to run or to do jumping jacks. I'm
Mm,
just walking or like kind of chasing my kids, or I'm trying to get from a saddle position to a position 3 on a bike, which is not
Yes.
impact, by the way.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
not impact activity. So she made suggestions like, well, they make these things that you can put pressure against your urethra so that you won't leak, and just use one of those.
Mm.
And I read the reviews
Just
and women were like, no,
just kind
no.
of the minimizing. I read an article the other day, Katie, and it's making me think about what you're talking about. It spoke how, and this goes back to ancient traditions, how women need to have the same level of nurturing to properly really heal after they give birth that they're giving to their infant. So that
Yes,
the importance of having a community and people around them so that they can get this connectivity back to their body and heal themselves, like literally the mother being nurtured like she's nurturing her infant. It just, I loved, I'm not a mother yet, but when I read that, I was like, that is going to happen because it's, talk to me a little bit about how getting nurtured yourself in your body and what you need after you have a baby, what that was like for you.
so with my first baby, my mom was here. She was in the delivery room, and my sister had already had a baby about 3 years, about 2 and 3/4 years before that. So I'd
Okay.
watched my mom take care of my sister, and she really wanted to be there. It was my first baby, and my husband and I talked about it, and we were fine with that, because if something happened to me, if something happened to the baby, like someone would need to go with the baby, someone would need to stay with me.
Yeah.
There are all these things that you don't want to think about, but you kind of have to think about.
Mm.
So she was with me in the delivery room, and she ended up flying in like the night we went into labor early that the first morning. And then
Yeah.
it was like 20 hours later that we got to the
Okay.
hospital. So
Wow.
our friend dropped her off at the hospital. Um, Something actually did happen to the baby. Like I
Mm.
couldn't hold her for 20 minutes because she had swallowed muconium and she had
Oh.
inhaled it. So it was in her lungs.
Ooh.
So, when I told my husband about this, he's like, I'll go with you. Of course I'll go with you. Like I would, and I'm like, no, if something's going on with me, like you need to go with the baby. And it was so funny
Mm.
after it happened, he just beeline to the baby. And I'm like,
Mm.
right. So it's
Yeah.
this like paternal instinct that you don't imagine can happen,
Yeah.
because he
Yeah.
couldn't picture it at that time. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he wasn't growing the baby. I was
Yeah.
growing the baby.
Wow.
I had all of that connection with the baby.
Yes.
So after we got home from the hospital, my mom took care of both of us.
Mm.
Our job was to take care of the baby, and my mom took care of my husband and I. So she would cook, she would clean. After you have a baby, you sweat a lot.
Mm.
All those extra red blood cells, they need kind of
Yeah.
somewhere to go.
Yeah.
So you sweat a lot. She would change my sheets every day. She would make our bed every day. She
Oh,
would run a
wow.
shower or bath for me. Like it was just, but I only had her for a
Mm.
week.
Oh, wow,
It was
Katie.
amazing though. It was amazing though. And then with my second baby, my mom wasn't here, but we had another baby. So
Mm-hmm.
Carl's mom came to help us take care of Ruthie. And kind of not having that one-on-one care that I had the first time was
Mm.
pretty difficult to kind of wade
Really?
through. And I felt like
Wow.
I had to be up and about more, and I had to help a little bit more. And it could be again because we had a toddler at the time. And my little Libby at the time was having a hard time nursing. So I was super emotional. I was having a hard time
Mm.
splitting my attention between the baby and the
Oh,
toddler. And I was just kind of a mess for a while.
yeah. And that's why this body story was so important, Katie, for me to talk to mothers because I have such a fascination with that kind of maternal bond, but really separating, I know there's a connectivity between the mother and child, but I'm very curious about the mother kind of standing alone and how she feels in her body now that she is, especially if she's nursed, if she naturally gave birth to her child. How do you as a woman, Katie, stand alone in your body? And when you think of your body story, now having these three babies, like, how do you process that yourself when you do look at yourself?
So, like, right after you have a baby, you feel like a foreigner in your own body. You feel like you don't know the language. You feel like you don't know the
Oh,
culture. You feel
wow.
very removed from your body because all of
Oh,
these things are happening that you don't, and it's different for each one.
yes.
Um, like your stomach may go down. Some people walk out of the hospital and they don't look like they've ever been pregnant. I am not one of those lucky people.
Okay.
I look like I'm pregnant for 4 to 6 weeks afterwards. Like it takes my
Yeah.
belly a long time to go down.
Yeah.
When your milk comes in, you feel like a complete, like you've just walked off this place. You have no idea. Like you're on a desert island. You're like, how do I find anything? Like, I don't know. You don't know what bras fit. You don't know. You have back pain and you're not sure why your back hurts if, you know, your boobs are getting full. It's just, it is, you look down and you're like, what happened?
Did you breastfeed all your girls?
I did.
Yeah, my mom breastfed all of us. And when with my youngest sister, we had
and you have four.
My mom
there are
has
four
four
of you,
girls.
right? Yeah.
And to slow the milk up, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but you put the Panamanian ladies would tell her to put a lime in between her breasts to help dry. So all the wives' tales that she learned to help kind of absorb some of the milk. I remember seeing pumps in the fridge. I loved watching my mom breastfeed my little sister. It was just a miracle. The way she'd like massage her little head, the noises she would make. I'm like, Mom, does this hurt? Like even breastfeeding, how was your process with breastfeeding? What was that? What did that feel like for you and your body?
It's something I really wanted to do with all of my kids. It did not come easy with any of them. And that is, that's really hard when you find out that it doesn't come easy. Yeah. And I think some people are just like, oh yeah, like, of course, baby's just nurse. It just happens. But there are like a lot of latching things that happen, and there's a lot of engorgement, and there's a lot of different things. And so with my first one, I remember with each baby being up at least the first or second night in the hospital all night long with the lactation consultant. Like that is, I remember asking for help and wanting all of the help they could give us. And I think with my first, she left the hospital kind of nursing. And then the first night she was home from the hospital, she screamed her head off from like 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. and she wouldn't eat. And I was like, with your first baby, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So it took a lot of kind of just asking for help, trying to understand I don't know it all. And my pediatrician was absolutely amazing. We picked a pediatrician that was also a lactation consultant.
Oh, that's great.
So she would kind of work us through like, here are some aids you can use. There are these silicone things you can put over your nipples. They're called nipple shields. And they help to create like an easier latch for the baby. So I used those with each of my kids. And then as they got stronger, each of them got rid of them at different times. So my oldest was 8 weeks. My middle, who happened to be my smallest baby, she was about 9 or 10 weeks.
Okay.
And then my last baby was my big one. She was 9 pounds, 7 ounces when she was born. She quit after about 6 weeks. She didn't need it anymore, and she was nursing on her own. But then after that, like after the shield is gone, it is the easiest, most wonderful thing I think I've ever done for my kids. And for myself, because feeling like you can feed them.
Did it help you lose weight? My mom always talked about how she just shed pounds right away because she breastfed.
I think it was probably helpful, definitely with Ruthie. I think as I got older and had more kids, I think there was just more weight that I had on from the previous kid.
Okay.
So, and I think it's interesting when people say like, oh, your second one, it should be a breeze because you've already had one. However, when I got pregnant with my first baby, my body was probably the strongest and thinnest it had been in years because I had just gotten married. So I was working out, I was doing yoga, I was doing solid core, I was cycling, I was teaching 6 classes a week. You know, I was doing whatever it took to get in shape for my wedding.
Yeah.
And then I got pregnant right away. And then with my second one, you never really, well, unless you really work hard at it, you just doing what you were doing before and not taking into account any postpartum activity that you should be doing, like pelvic floor therapy or core and restore. So making sure that I can never say this right, your diastasis recti, the separating of the stomach muscles that happens when you get pregnant.
Okay.
There is special techniques and ab work that you need to do to put those guys back together, like right down the center line. I've never done it, by the way. I know that I should, but I've never done it. But if you just start doing ab work that doesn't help with that, they'll just stay apart. So unless you do these things, your body is not nearly as strong for your second baby. So
So
the
women
second
that,
pregnancy is going to be hard.
Katie, women that aren't knowledgeable and have this expertise that you have, and, just really made this, you understand this a lot more. How do you feel that impacts women who are just guilting themselves for not whipping back into how they looked on their wedding day or what have you when they were at their strongest? Like them not being armed with this, how do you think that might be impacting women after they have a baby?
I think it will just perpetuate this awful diet culture that we have, the snapback culture, this
Mm,
take this, do this. It will keep that supplement industry and that weight loss industry just
mm,
churning at the billions of dollars that it makes every year. I think it's really sad and unfortunate, but even the personal trainer that I know of, that I work with from time to time, who has for the last 20 years pretty much dedicated her entire practice to pre-postnatal.
mm.
And over the last 5 years, 6 years, she had her first baby and then her
Wow.
second baby. So she was doing this long before she even had
Had
any
children.
experience with it.
Yeah.
But after she did, she created a business only. It's called the Strong Mom Project. It is only for moms.
Wow.
And she just posted yesterday, like, how many of you are in Facebook groups that are talking to moms about bouncing back? And the
Mm.
first thing they're doing is like HIIT training. And the first thing they're doing is like
Oh,
the fastest repetitions of anything you
yes.
could ever imagine. And
Oh.
where she starts all of her groups are on breathing. This is
Mm.
how we need to work on breathing. This is how we need to
Yes.
work on pulling everything back together. And she uses these cues that are so smart and so just really intuitive. So
Yes.
I think you can seek
Oh, I
out, because your
love
physician's
that.
not going to help you with this. Your physician is not going to help you. They do not
Yes.
know, or they don't
Yeah.
care.
But
I
I
mean,
love, but the common message is you have to want, like when it comes to your body, there is this ownership. Even if you're looking in front of someone, a doctor who is, to many people will mark off as this, this person of authority. So you're more inclined to listen and take their
mhm.
feedback. But I'm just curious, are women pausing and actually checking in with their body, asking questions, seeking out their own knowledge? Because that, what you just said, starting with breathing, that makes perfect sense to me. But to somebody else who's giving into that snapback culture, it's too slow. It's not
Right.
going to get the results quick enough.
Right. And I told Krista, she's like, what have you been doing? Cause I did this challenge that
Yeah.
she created, and she's like, what have you been doing? I'm like, well, I've been doing a little bit of body pump. I still teach 2 days a week. And she was like, okay. She's like, body pump's great. It's a little quick. And I'm
Mm.
15 months postpartum. My
Wow.
youngest is 15 months. And she's like, the pace is a little fast. Like we might
Yeah.
want to slow it down a little bit. And for
Mm.
me, I'm thinking faster, get results. I only have this amount of time to do it. I need to get as much in as I can. And it's a much larger mentality of quality over quantity. And
Yes.
basically saying, like, you have to put this work in to make your body a more sound machine, and
Mm.
to try to get yourself back to a stronger. She says right now, she was a competitor, she's a figure competitor, and she
Wow.
says now her body, her core and her pelvic
Yeah.
floor are stronger than they've ever been. And she says that's all I need, because
See, and
it's the
I
foundation for everything else.
the reason I love to hear that, Katie, and our experience is different because we're instructors. So we have seen, and I see you looking around. I know somebody in that house needs your
My
attention.
husband just walked in.
Look at her mom. She's always alert.
Yeah.
But
I hear something.
like we see the power of people's bodies. We don't look at somebody's physical feature and associate them with healthy or strong. And that's just, I think when you're a fitness instructor, you find out what people are doing, you understand different body types. So I associate health and strong with all different sizes just because of my
Totally agree.
experience. But
Yep.
this snapback, this quick, this especially superstars, we're seeing, all the stories that are being told about just probably work that they're getting done and all this whole team that they have to get them into their snapback body. That must be a lot of pressure for women after giving birth to feel that they have to get back. That's something I'm going to have to talk to more women about. I'm really curious about this.
And I think it all depends on your support system too, right? So my husband's a strength coach. Like, we live fitness in this family for the most
Yeah.
part. My husband teaches high school athletes. He does every sport you can imagine, and he does all of their weight room work. So
Wow.
my husband was a strong man. He competed in Olympic weightlifting. Like, he's,
Wow. Was that
he does the
important for your
fitness thing
life partner,
also.
Katie, to be physically Was that a big important for you?
I think it's so interesting, Coco. It didn't seem like it. Like I didn't have a list or a checklist or anything. It didn't really seem
Really?
like it, but we really, being on two different sides of the industry,
Yeah.
he was in collegiate, he was working at Georgetown when we met, and I had no idea about, like, yes, there are strength coaches, but I didn't realize like
Yes.
it's a profession that people really spent a lot of time in school to then become.
Yeah.
But to understand that that was important to him, it
Mm.
made teaching and it made like wanting to exercise not it made it not necessarily okay. I guess I don't know how to say it. It wasn't like I needed permission, but like, when you're in a new relationship and you never want to do anything but like be with the person and
I
you're
mean,
like,
when
I'm
you
not
reach
going to the
that,
gym.
Katie, yes, that used to be me. It's a non-negotiable. I'm like, I'll
Yeah.
see you after I get this workout in. But yes, I get it.
You know, so we used to, like, when we first started dating, we used to lift together.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's great.
I'd never done any Olympic weightlifting at all. And he taught me the clean and jerk and he taught me the snatch. And so,
Wow.
it's just it's great that yes, we can both, like, in the last couple of years, he's really gotten into mountain biking.
Oh,
And
that's
I
great.
have gone mountain biking with him, half a dozen times because it's really interesting to me. I only cycle inside for the most
Right?
part.
Don't people trip out? They're like, you don't have a bike for outdoors? I'm glad to hear you say that, Katie, because I feel like a huge part of my body story and fitness journey, that is, I'm not a list gal, but
Right.
my life partner, physical fitness and wellness, that has to be a priority for him because I need that layer of accountability for myself. When you choose a life partner, that has to be
Yes.
aligned for me, period.
I think that's it, Coco, is that it's not like, okay, well, I have to go teach now. It's not any
Mm-hmm.
guilt that I get
Yep.
like thrown my way. It's like, yeah, you have to go teach. Of course.
Yeah.
Like
Because it's going
it's
to
your
make you
job.
feel good. You're going to look
Yes.
fantastic. It's going to improve your mood. You're going to be better for me and our daughters. Period.
Yep.
End of
And
story.
for 3 years, I guess, 4 years, I taught a Saturday morning class and I used to teach Saturdays and Sundays. And that meant that he had childcare for,
Yeah.
2 or 3 hours in the mornings because I would
Mm-hmm.
drive into DC and I would go to Georgetown and then I would teach at Columbia Heights the next day.
Oh, I
And
love
then I
it.
decided to take one day a weekend for our family after my second was born. It's probably a year in. I was like,
Yeah.
2 weekend days are a
I
little tough.
remember because I started
Yeah.
taking over your classes. What a good choice.
Yes. Yeah. It was
But
definitely worth it. So I
yeah.
think that, yes, having somebody understand that. And so coming back to this like snapback culture, if your partner expects that you're just going
Mm,
to leave the hospital and look like you did the day you got pregnant, good luck.
mm,
Cause it
mm.
is, and it's a lot I think it was a lot for my husband to understand the hormone shifts with every child.
Wow.
They were different.
Yeah.
So I remember having this like fit of rage after I had Dot, and it is a very real, like I've read about it, this
Yeah.
postpartum rage that you can get. I
Wow.
remember I think I broke a butter dish in the kitchen in the sink. Like I was
Yeah.
so mad at one thing that he had said that I don't think he meant anything by, but I took
Yeah.
it so personally. And
Wow.
I threw something and I was screaming and then I just
Oh.
started crying. And
Oh.
I think he's like, what is going on?
That's why that coach was like, let's focus on breathing first.
Exactly. And I think just kind
Oh,
of helping them to
wow.
understand, like, you don't,
Yes.
I, I'll never forget. I had a client one time that I was talking to, and she never wanted to get married. And she met her partner and
Yeah.
they were engaged, and her grandma sat them down at her engagement party and said, he looked right at her and she said, honey, I just want you to know before you get married, I hope you love everything about him because
Mm,
men never change. If his socks are on
mm.
the floor today, his socks are going to be on the floor in 5 years. And
Okay.
then she looked at him and
Yeah.
she said, buddy, I want you to know, I'm glad you love her today, but you're going to have to wake up every morning and continue to love her because women
Mm,
change every day.
mm.
Women are different versions of themselves all the time. When you
Yes.
become a mother, you're different than you are. When you get a new job and it's really important to you and it's
Mm,
taking time from your personal relationships, from your romantic relationships, like there
mm.
are things that we put our time and energy into that make us different people for the people we love.
Yes.
And we may think that we're the same. And we may think that it's, personal development and personal growth, and I need this to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And everybody else is standing on the sidelines being, what about me? And I think that we want to be so many things to so many people that we will circle back and we will try to explain and we will try to be everything for everybody. But to understand that women are constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly moving it's a hard target to hit, right? But you have to find somebody that wants to grow with you and understand all of that. And I think that obviously communication has to be one of the most important things. But I think
to
that's
even
how
take that, like the evolution, even like I've thought about when I feel like I've really met Katie, the person I'm supposed to be with the rest of my life, I know I want to have a very frank conversation with him about the continuing of the love, even as my body will change. Because, and I know this is just my own triggering that I've just dealt with for so many years. This can't
Totally
be
agree.
something like I need to know you're falling in love with me now. You're physically attracted to me now, but I just need to know 10 years, 20 years, hell, 5 years. Something may change where it's just things are not the same. So I've thought about what that conversation will look and sound like. I don't know why I'm such a futuristic person, Katie, but that's important to me that with the evolution of my body changing, that my partner needs to be okay with this. And same for me. I got to be okay with it,
Well, I think that's the hard part, because as instructors, I think we are constantly judged on and constantly thinking about our bodies. And that's been a part of my body story as well, going back after each baby or teaching super pregnant, thinking to myself, are people not going to come to my class because I'm not what they want to look like? The person on the stage is not what their goals are.
Girl, when I hear compliments like, if Katie can be up there doing it pregnant, I can be. That's what I'm hearing as a coach from your student. So, but isn't that incredible? That was your thinking.
It is. But I do have to tell you, it kind of, if I was thinking it, I would also let it just go in one side and out the other, because I was like, I'm showing up no matter what. And I can't believe that my body can do this. And I'm just going to keep pushing on until I remember asking my OB with my first, like, do you think I should stop teaching? And she was like, no, I think you're doing great. And I was like, are you sure? Like, maybe, because I wanted an excuse to stop. And she was like, no, you can. I taught I taught the Saturday before I went into labor. I went into labor like maybe a Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning at 3:30 in the morning. And I had taught 3 days before that. So I was like 40 weeks and 3 days, the last class I taught, something like that.
Girl, you are
but that's with the first. I did stop with the second. I was like, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this. Like, I'm not comfortable moving. I'm going to enjoy the rest of it. But I think that, because yes, we are so, what's the word I'm looking for? We're so scrutinized, and we kind of scrutinize ourselves because we want to, be everything, look everything for our team and the people that come to our classes every day. But when you're saying that you want to find a partner that, how to have this conversation with, the partner that you find, the right one, is going to love the way you look pregnant, is going to love the way that you look after you had a baby, because they're going to see this baby and say, look at this gift you just gave both of us.
Yes. Oh, God, it's so beautiful.
It really is. I think that that's one of the best parts, is like doing this together and like having, your husband or your partner by your side the whole pregnancy and in the delivery room. And people were like, oh, your husband should never watch. He'll never look at you the same way. I was like, who are you? Like, these are children.
Girl, my daddy, I have pictures. I know the visual of my mom's vagina way too well. Like, I'm talking.
My kids will too.
That is, you have heard a woman say that before.
Yes. 100%. And I have a friend who's like, oh, he stayed up here. Like, he stayed on this side of the sheet. And I'm like, I feel really bad for him, because this miracle it's a once in a lifetime. And there are people that would fight to be in a delivery room. They would claw you tooth and nail to be in a delivery room, either on this side of the sheet, having someone deliver a baby that's gonna be theirs, or laying in the bed, delivering a baby that's going to be theirs. There are so many people that want babies and are either having trouble or have spent years, and every single it's a blessing for anybody that wants it, anybody that doesn't want it. I think we just need to be all respectful of however it
Yes.
comes, and also
Yes.
watch what you say, because you could really hurt people's feelings,
Oh,
because there are
Katie,
people that
thank
have
you
worked
for
a long
saying
time.
that. Thank you for, because I personally know women right now that are actively working on getting pregnant. So just you saying that, I know that's touched somebody that's listening. Thank you. Is there anything, Katie,
Absolutely.
girl? We just went on and on, which I just
I
love.
know, I know.
I told you, see, you can't even expect where the convo's gonna
It's
go.
very true. There is one thing that I've really wanted to say and be
And that's
sure
what
that
I
I
wanted to
say
ask
is that
you. Yes, please.
I so I may have my own feelings about my body and what it used to look like and what it's been able to do for me. And I think that that's great. But I have three very little girls that
Mm,
listen to everything I say. And there
mm.
is not a time we don't like, fat is not a bad word in our house, but
Okay.
it is not a word that my children have ever heard coming
Mm,
out of our mouths. And my
mm.
5-year-old came home one day and said, this girl in her class said that she had a fat tummy. And we were talking at the dinner table. All of us were sitting there, and Carl, my husband, kind of looked at me like, okay, well, I'm going to pass this
Katie,
one
I'll
on to
let you
you.
handle this one.
Yeah. And we were talking,
Wow.
and I said, that makes me really sad. And she said, why? And I said, I think that we just really don't like to talk about the way people's bodies look. We really want to talk about the way that people make us feel. And we want to
Yes.
talk about how funny they are, or how silly they are, or how smart they are, or we want to talk about those things. And I know that there's some great kids books that talk about fat bodies, skinny bodies, wide bodies, short bodies, tall bodies. But for my 5-year-old right now, I don't want her to look at her friend and then compare that word to any other
Mm,
friends that she has. We're not going to talk about it, but also they will never hear me say like, oh my gosh, I feel so fat, or oh my gosh, doesn't look good. Like, if we're going to have a conversation about my body, it's going to be after my kids go to bed, because I don't,
mm. Why
we
is that
talk about,
important?
because I feel like I watched my mom be on diets for years. I went to Weight Watchers with my mom when I was in high school. I just want them to know that what we cook for them is good for their bodies and healthy for their bodies. And the best thing to do every day is move your body,
Mm-hmm.
and that we speak kindly to our body, no matter what it is. Our legs can help us move, our arms help us get things, or color, or be
Yes.
creative, or whatever it might be. And we also try really hard to not talk about other things making you beautiful.
Mm.
So I wore makeup today. I don't usually wear makeup, but since I was going to be on your
Oh,
Zoom and we were going to
thanks,
record it,
hon.
I put some on
Either
because
way,
I
I would have
wanted to
loved to
feel
have
fancy.
you. Okay.
And that's what we talk about with my kids, is we talk about feeling. So my daughters walked in on me doing my makeup and she's, Mommy, what is that? What are you doing? And I
Ooh.
said, I'm going to dinner with Daddy tonight. It's a very special night. Daddy and I are going out, just the two of us. And she goes, why are you putting that on your face? I said, because I want to feel fancy. She goes,
Ooh.
oh, I love to feel fancy.
Ah.
So makeup makes us feel fancy, and lipstick is called
Yes.
fancy lip. And we put fancy lip
Ooh.
on when we want to feel just a little fancier.
I love
So
it.
I have this obligation to these girls to let their thoughts about their body be nothing but positive,
Mm.
and to not understand what it feels like until maybe they get to that point where their peers are having an impact on their own idea of their body. But
Mm.
I want to set this foundation that those ideas, or that influence, is not going to break their stride. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I
Yes.
want them to be, what are you talking about? My
Yep.
pants fit great. Or
Mm-hmm.
if that's too tight on your legs. My legs are so strong. Of course
Yeah.
that it's tight on my legs.
Like just laugh it off. Like just oh,
Exactly. Like
Katie.
those are the things that I want for them. So I have to
Yes.
be, no matter how I'm feeling about myself on any given day, I have to remind myself that it is not about me anymore.
Mm.
I have these three little legacies that I have to ensure
Mm.
that I set them up for success, and that I don't give them any type of body complex that they're going to talk to their therapist about in 20 years.
Mm.
I want to be sure that they have a healthy relationship with movement. I want to be sure they have a healthy relationship with food. And
Yes.
if I can do that, I feel like I will have done my job, hopefully.
Ooh, super mama. Mm. That was going to be my final
One day.
question. I was like, what do you want to leave us with? That is just, Katie, just such powerful conversation and very real testimony of your body story, but even thinking generationally, kind of what you want to do different for your girls is, I'm so, so thankful for your time sharing your
Well,
story
thank
today.
you. And I think any moms that are listening, or new moms specifically, like if there is anything that is bothering you, if there is any, you are crying at the drop of a hat and you're not sure why, or you feel a certain way about your body or about your kid or about, like, reach out for help. There is a network of moms, and every
Mm,
single mom will tell you, I've had this moment before, or, that sounds very difficult. It might be time to reach out for some extra support. I think that
mm,
it's really important to just recognize that, yeah, your feelings and your hormones and your emotions are going to be a little bit different. But if they're severely different and it's really impacting how you feel about yourself
mm.
and how you feel about your family, definitely talk to someone. But also just talk to Coco, talk to a mom. Like, there are anybody
Mm,
just that is willing to listen. Sometimes
yes.
that's so helpful to just kind of pull yourself back to reality and say, I can get through this. Or, of course, it's just hormones. Or maybe it's not just hormones. Maybe it's just who you are, because we're
Yes.
constantly changing and evolving all the time. So
Oh, Katie, I hope there was something even helpful for you from this conversation. This is
definitely.
quite special. I can't wait to see what evolves with Body Story with Coach Coco, and you're a part of it now.
I'm so excited too. I'm sending all my friends your link, and I'm making sure that everybody tries to get to your boot camp. I will make it to your boot camp, Coco, at one time.
You will. You just put it
And
out
I
there in the environment.
also, I'm teaching on Saturday at Glover Park. If you just want to come and say hi and take a class,
Oh,
I'll
thanks,
get you
hon.
in.
Honey bun,
I
thank you
know
so.
somebody.
Oh, I know you know somebody. I ain't worried. I like the hookup. I like the hookup. But thank you so much for this.
It's so good
And
to see your face.
you too, hon. And thanks for looking fancy for me, girl, because I'm out here on this little farm. Ain't nothing fancy happening. I got a French braid.
I'm loving you put color in, what, like 3 months ago, maybe? Is
Yeah,
that right?
I want to keep
It's
my little
so
blonde around. This is my body story for now. A little lighter
love it.
hair.
Love it. Yeah, mine went darker just because.
Oh, oh, well, hon, I
So
hope you have
good
a
to see
great
you.
week. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
You too.
Talk to you later.
Drive safe. There are great wineries in Gordonsville.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Go check them
hon.
out. All right.
Bye.